Welcome back to the DTVC Extra podcast. As always, this is Matt here, and on this episode, we're going to be looking at the two latest Predator films. We'll be looking at Killer of Killers and then Badlands. That'll be in the second segment here. So, and if you want to know what I thought of the previous Predator films, you can go back in the archives. It's DTVC Extra 21, 22, and 23. I did these back in April of 2024, which I can't believe it's already been like not only a year, but it's been like 18 months since I talked about those. It feels like it was just yesterday that I was doing those episodes. So again, it's what we always talk about when you're getting older, that time goes by quicker. But I really still am having trouble with the fact that that was that long ago. But anyway, if you go into the archives or if you're, whatever podcatcher you're following us on, I think if you search and type in Predator, those 3 episodes will come up. So you can go and check those out to see what I thought of those. But yeah, I figure what I do is we'll talk about Killer of Killers in this segment, take a break. You can hear about one of my books, and then we'll talk about Badlands in the next segment. And I thought with Killer of Killers, what I'll do is I'll kind of break them into each of the 3 anthology segments and to talk about what I liked and didn't like about each of those, and then kind of the overall, discussion about that. Another thing is I'm going to be referring to the Predators as Predators the entire time. I'm not going to be calling them Yatya. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't get that they're called that. I do understand that that's sort of the name we're using now. I think what the name was introduced, I think, in Alien versus Predator, right? I think it was in the comic books. But I think these movies are the first time that the term is actually being used for them as their name. And, I get it. If Predators were real, right? If there really were a Yatya and they said, we want to be called Yatya, I would call them Yatya. But they're fictitious alien killers. So it's more fun to call them Predators. That's what I'm going to call them. So just keep that in mind. So yeah, if you've kind of got your comment locked and loaded, they're Yatya, they're not Predators. If you've got that locked and loaded, just save it. Just, use it somewhere else, because I know that's what they're called, but I'm calling them Predators here. So anyway, why don't we get a little bit stuck in here on Killer of Killers? Now, I wasn't completely turned off by the fact that it was an animated thing, but I did kind of, there wasn't like a huge impetus for me to watch it when I found out that it was animated. And I think that's just kind of how I am. I don't know in terms of cartoon stuff or art animated stuff, how much I'm a huge fan of a lot of it. I was trying to think of going back, I love like old Hanna-Barbera stuff. I mean, Josie and the Pussycats, right? Laugh Olympics. I mean, Laugh Olympics, we've talked about that on the MCU ones, right? I'm just always a fan of that. When you've got Scooby-Doo and Yogi Bear, and you're going to mix those Snagglepuss, you mix those characters together. That's just a ton of fun. But yeah, I was trying to think of more serious or more adult themed comics. I mean, obviously Liquid Television, Eon Flux, that stuff that I was a fan of. Looking back, it was Star Wars with the Clone Wars, not the computer animated Clone Wars, but the more traditional hand-drawn one that, for whatever reason, I guess Lucas didn't like that one. So if you go to Disney Plus and look it up, it's in like the vintage section. But if you haven't checked that out before, I really enjoyed that. I really dug that one. So that might be something worth checking out if you haven't yet. But so there are some animated things that I like, and of course, I like King of the Hill, Family Guy, that kind of stuff. I guess Simpsons, right? You got to say, Simpsons been around for a while, but it's another one that I'm a fan of. So there are still some that I'm also I also dig. So I guess it's not like I have like I'm an anti-animatist or something like that. I just it just, when I see like a movie's going to be full on animation like that, I'm kind of I don't know, and I guess, too, when it's computer animation, I think my brain still isn't doing well with that as well. I'm a bigger fan of more hand-drawn stuff. You throw on something like Alice in Wonderland, the old Disney version, I could watch that. But if you do like a computer version, like a Pixar version of it, I think my brain still is getting the hang of being able to watch that kind of stuff, and I'm not the biggest fan of it. So that was one thing that was a little bit of a turnoff. It was one of those things where when we got closer to Badlands coming out, and I knew I was going to watch it, and I knew I was going to want to talk about it on the DTVC Extra, I was like, well, I better watch Killer of Killers now. And of course, that's another piece of it, is the fact that it was straight to Hulu, the same way Prey was straight to Hulu. There isn't I use the word impetus again, but there isn't the urgency to see it, because you've got Hulu. You're always going to have Hulu. I guess, yes, we may have gotten rid of it during the Kimmel thing, but truth be told, part of it is that the site, just wanting to be able to have access to Hulu to be able to review movies on the site. The other part of it is I'm such a huge hockey fan, especially college and pro hockey, and ESPN Plus just has so many games that I was like, when life is stressful, to be able to just turn on a hockey game at any time, it is a kind of a godsend. And I kind of just, thinking about life being stressful, not having that safety valve. But I also get too, right, why people did get rid of Disney Plus, during the Kimmel thing, and overall, I totally understand people doing that, but I didn't. But that would be a reason, I guess, why I would have gotten rid of Hulu and not had a chance to watch this movie when I did earlier in the year. But anyway, I've watched it now. I did watch it Friday night before I went to go see Badlands on Saturday, and I think what I liked about it was the anthology aspect of it, where you had the 3 different stories in the past of people killing predators, and I thought that was a really cool one. We start with the first one, which was the Viking one, where we had the character of Ursa, who's trying to avenge her father, and after she avenges her father, Predator shows up, and he goes to work, and the one that I think that was the first one, I think, where the animation really struck me as jarring or something hard to watch, because there's like a scene where when she first gets to where her like the guy who killed her father, he's got this fortress, and she goes through and starts just like laying waste to it. She's got these 2 shields, and she's like slashing at people and killing people and all this stuff, and it was like very herky-jerky. It was kind of hard to follow, and I get that they were able to do stuff with the animation that maybe only some of the best martial art fight coordinators and action coordinators could do nowadays. Like you would have to probably spend on some of the best to get this thing to look the way that they wanted it to look. But it kind of was a little bit off for me. It was a little bit hard to kind of figure out. I think they do a better job in the later one when they do the one in medieval Japan in the next segment. That one looks a little bit better, and also I think the plain one. So it didn't always look great. But I love the idea of that character. She was her character named Ursa. She was totally badass. I mean, you could see. It's almost like they based her off of Tilda Swinton in The Dead Don't Die, which would be awesome if that character was fighting a predator, because that's one of my favorite characters. If you haven't seen that movie, it's an interesting one. It's a little indulgent on the Jarmusch indulgency scale. It's a little bit high on the indulgent level. But I mean, when you get Austin Butler in a Jarmusch film, forget like Adam Driver and Bill Murray. When you get Austin Butler, you're cranking up the indulgency meter, and it was definitely indulgent. But anyway, Ursa's character, she was really cool, but I think again that the idea of it was kind of a really cool idea. When she fights the predator, it's really interesting too. I mean, the one thing I would say is that Dan Trachtenberg and the other director that we had in this as well. What was his name? It's funny. I always think I have these names pulled up, but I don't. Joshua Wasson. I don't know if either of them have ever swam at the beach in Maine in the summer. I'm not talking about going in like February and doing a polar plunge in Maine. I'm talking about August, right? You go into the beach in August, York Beach, Maine, like the lowest, kind of the most southern beach that we have in Maine, and you go into that water there. I don't think they've ever done that before, because if they did, then you'd know, like, if some Viking woman like plunges through ice-covered water, you can't just go. You don't just go swimming around in that water. That's not how that works. I mean, when you're walking in water like that, and like the waves are starting to kind of come up to you, it completely shuts your system down. Like when I feel it hit my stomach, and we're talking about August Maine water where it's like 60 degrees, maybe maybe like high 50s, 60 degrees. Not like, this water that's like ice on the top and is like, probably just above freezing below that. I mean, again, this happens in all kinds of movies. And again, I'm watching her fight a predator. So it's not like I can be totally like, oh, dude, you totally missed that. But it always kind of funny to me as someone who grew up in Maine, and that's what our beach experience was, right? It was like you essentially would run into the water, dive in, and just get all this cold water on you, let it shock your system, and you'd be cooled off for the rest of the day. That was kind of our experience. I did get a chance last August. I visit my family. I definitely went in and did that. It's like sometimes you do like kind of the slow walk where you kind of just kind of let yourself kind of build up to it and let it like get used to it over time. And when that happens, like every wave that comes up above the I got used to it line, it's just it's like another shock to the system. And eventually it's just like, no, I just got to dive in and just do this. But anyway, so I mean the fact that she's underwater, and again, again, you know, the other thing, of course, she holds her breath for an inordinate amount of time fighting the Predator under there. But the way she dispatches him was kind of cool. On the other hand, too, it was kind of like, man, that's a Predator. Like, you know, you'd think like a Predator would do a better job fighting her. But anyway, because he just kind of, he was taking everybody out, but then for some reason he couldn't do the things he was doing to take everybody else out. He couldn't do them to her. So anyway, so she defeats him, and then we see her on a ship with a collar, like that's like supposed to like be holding her. It's like, oh, okay, so this is something different here. So then they cut into the scene. The next guy is a Japanese guy, and we see that he's in medieval Japan, and interesting situation where he's a samurai. He's one of two brothers. The father is like, okay, you know, who's going to be the one to take my samurai mantle? The one who's there, the one who we see on the ship, he refuses to fight his brother. His brother attacks him, cuts his cheek, so he's scarred. So the young man runs away. And he goes and lives off as a farmer in the village. Then he comes back as a ninja to take on his brother after his father dies. And so as a ninja, he kind of stalks into the castle, gets in there, and then they fight, and they're kind of doing their sword fight. Then the Predator shows up, and so they have to team up together and defeat the Predator, which they do. You know, we've talked about this with the ninja thing before, that that's not really how ninjas did it. And this movie had a really good chance to use like real ninja stuff, because, you know, ninjas didn't dress up in some kind of, you know, ninja outfit. They dressed up like whoever they were infiltrating. And so the samurai, the dad, had all these guards. And so the thing would have been for him to dress up like one of the guards and infiltrate them and just start wiping them out, which would have been really cool too, because that's kind of how ninjas worked. But that's not what they went kind of with a more traditional ninja garb here to kind of do that, which I guess that works fine as well. I don't know. It would have been interesting to see them actually go full on real ninja and see how that works there. But, you know, I think the animation looked better in this. I think it looked better from the standpoint of the ninja kind of climbing around, jumping around, doing ninja stuff, the sword fights, all of that definitely seemed to be a better deal. I also like the idea of just, you know, Predator fighting a ninja. You know, he's there. I think if I remember right, he had a sword, but he also was, you know, trying to blow things up, and he was using chains and stuff to attack them. And so, yeah, and I mean, I also like the idea of the two brothers coming together to fight the Predator and defeat him. So that was a pretty good one there. And then the last one was an interesting one. It was a young man who, World War II, he's learning how to fly a plane. And I mean, suddenly he's like an expert at it. I don't know how that happens, but there's a Predator flying some kind of spacecraft, and he's just taking out all the planes in a World War II battle. It's between like the Americans and the Vichy French, I guess, something like that. But there's a Predator flying around doing that, which I think there's the idea of like, oh, let's do a different version of a Predator fighting and all of that stuff, which I get. But I don't know. For me, the whole point of the Predators is that they show up and it's like mano a mano. You know, we're just coming down to hunt. Because the idea of it, because the whole idea of the Predators, they're supposed to be someone who's like a trophy hunter. And so it would be like my dad hunts, you know, growing up in Maine, he'd go out in the woods. And now, granted, when my dad hunts, you know, he's not hunting for trophies, he's hunting for food. That was always his mindset. I think that's like old French mindset, because the French, from the moment they kind of, started colonizing here in the United States and in Canada, a lot of the time that was the mindset, was that like if you hunted and you killed. That was why we talked about, I think we talked about that in the Prey episode, was that in Prey they were depicting the French fur trappers as just like taking the fur off the buffalo but leaving the carcasses there, which is not what the French would do. They would kill the animal and then just completely take it apart and use all of it for food. I mean, in Maine, when they would find old French settlements in parts of Maine, archaeologically, they would see like bear skulls with the brains scooped out, because the French would eat all of it. But anyway, so my dad hunted, and I don't know that my dad would ever do something where like he was flying in a plane and shooting at deer from a plane. Like that didn't seem like that would work. I mean, I guess maybe, I don't know. Like it's probably something like a tool like what's his face there. I can't think of his name. Ted Nugent. Ted Nugent. Ted Nugent would do that, right? He'd probably be able to a plane and like throw nets down on things and catch them that way or whatever. But I don't know that a predator, right? I don't know that a predator would think that that's a cool way to fight. That, that, oh, I'm gonna shoot out other planes. I guess maybe. I guess it could work, but I don't know. So anyway, so this kid who's barely flown before, suddenly he is an expert pilot and he's flying all over the place. And this is where shit starts to get weird in this predator thing. Is that so he takes out the predator. He figures out how to take the flying predator. He makes him blow up, and then we see him at his old the garage that his father owned after the war, and a spaceship shows up. We get to see crop circles, so similar to with Alien versus Predator, where they were saying that the predators were the Anunnaki, right? They were giving us all the technology. This is saying that they're also crop circles, that the predators are making crop circles, which I think is a really fun idea. But anyway, we find out that what the predators do is if you defeat a predator, they come back and take you and put you on ice until they need you, and then they have you participate in this ritual where you and two other people who have killed predators have to kill each other, and then you get to fight the big predator at the end, some big predator. That's it. And then I guess you're what you win is you get to get frozen again. I don't know exactly how that works. So we're going to get into why I don't like that at all coming up here. But let's get through this part of it here. What's going on? Where we've done our anthology pieces, which again I liked. I like the samurai one the most, but I like the Viking one and the World War II one. I think it would have been better if it was more hand-to-hand kind of stuff. But I guess I like the idea that they were trying something new with it. That's fine. But anyway, so while they're there, Ursa is trying to fight the samurai guy. The samurai guy's trying to tell her, don't fight me. We need to team up to be able to defeat them. And she can't understand what he's saying. Now, the guy who fought in World War II, he learned a little bit of Japanese, so he can communicate a little bit with the Japanese guy. But anyway, he disappears. The kid disappears. And then it turns out he knows how to use all of the Predator technology. He can just start messing around with stuff, and he turns off the collars, because the collars not only can they control people, they can translate for them, but they can also blow your head off if you don't do what the predators want. Well, he was able to turn them off. He was controlling the little speeder bike kind of thing, and he's also flying their plane. I don't know how any of that works. I don't know how you learn. I guess it's Predator technology. Maybe it's easy enough. It could be the joke. Now, what's the common joke, right? Again, going back to that Anunnaki thing, is this idea that all of our technology comes from aliens, right? That aliens showed up around World War II and gave America all of this technology for all of this stuff, and that's why we have all the stuff we have now. That it wasn't research triangles or Stanford or Boston, MIT and places like that. It was aliens giving us all that. And maybe that's the idea, right? Is that the predators gave us all this technology. This kid, while he was in World War II, was learning about this technology. He was like, oh, I get it. It's all predator stuff. Yeah, predator stuff. It's all the stuff I learned in World War II. I'm going to fly the planes and do all that stuff. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But anyway, what happens is that the samurai guy and the World War II guy escape. Unfortunately, the other woman sacrifices herself, Ursa, and she gets put back on ice. While she's getting put back on ice, and this was something I was worried that they might do. I was nervous about this, and they did it. First, they show us Naru is being kept on ice, which completely betrays everything good that they did in that Prey movie. The whole point of that movie is that we get this really great character arc from Naru. She goes through this whole process, and it comes out at the end of it defeating a predator, and the best that she gets is she gets frozen. That's what she gets for all that? She gets frozen? It's so ridiculous. And then, Danny Glover, they show Danny Glover in the Frozen thing as well. Okay, so we watch the end of Predator 2, and we get this thing that the predators are like these honorable hunters, that they respect people who can outlast them or defeat them, and they give Danny Glover this gun out of respect. That's what they do? But then they're just going to freeze him after? Sometime later, they just show up and freeze him? It was it completely betrayed what we thought predators were by doing that. Now, I get if anybody's going to do something fugazi like that, it would be the predators, right? They're savages, right? They don't care. And they would put people on ice for hundreds of years and not worry about it. But it's still this idea of these are characters that again, the Arnold Schwarzenegger one, they talked about that. He was he was still alive. He was still hanging around doing stuff. So when did he get frozen? When did they put him on ice? But there we see him there. He's on ice there. I don't know. For me, it ruins the whole point of all of it. I mean, the whole point of us watching people defeat predators is that they come out of the other side and they've survived it. They've made it happen. And now we find out that they just get frozen after? It's just so asinine. It ruins the whole thing. Going back through all of these movies where people, I mean, does Sanaa Lathan, does she get frozen because she didn't defeat a predator, but she helped a predator defeat an alien? Does that mean she gets frozen too? I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe not. I don't know. I'm not a fan of that at all. I just think it was really, really shitty. I also think when you think about like X versus Predator, right? Batman versus Predator. I was talking with Chris the Brain. He was showing me somebody else had posted like a RoboCop with like robot versions of Predators, and it was like, why are we doing that? But I was like, hey, RoboCop versus the Predator would be a great movie. Except now RoboCop gets frozen or gets put on ice if he defeats a Predator. What are we doing? I hope they go back and reverse this and just say, you know what? No, that's not what we're doing. At the very least, I think Dan Trachtenberg, if he really looked at what he did with Prey, looked at what he made that movie, then I don't know. I feel like, yeah, I don't know. For me, it didn't work, and I hope they go back and reverse this decision because it's the idea of somebody defeating a predator and then they get frozen as a result. To me, it just doesn't work. The thing is I went on like Letterboxd, I went on IMDb, and I don't see anybody complaining about that aspect of it. There's other things that they're not happy about. They thought it was mediocre, or they thought this or that. But that part of it, nobody seemed to care as much. To me, that ruins the whole thing. I think more so than anything else. I don't know. But, hey, everybody's got their own opinion, right? And so that's how I feel. So I'm nervous because the fact that they showed Naru, Danny Glover's character, and Dutch, Schwarzenegger's character as cartoon versions, that they may bring them back. So I do think it'll be interesting to see like what happens next. If maybe they're going to do a sequel to this Killer of Killers and have the three of them do something, and that's supposed to be awesome that they're putting them all together. For me, if this is how they're putting them all together, I don't want to see it. It's not worth it for me. So I'm going to be curious to see how we go on with Predator from here. And we'll talk about Badlands here in a second. But yeah, that twist at the end was not a good one for me. I was not a fan of it. So so why don't we take a break here, and then when we come back, we will talk about Badlands. It's the early 90s in LA. The war on drugs is raging, and Detective John Bainbridge is the LAPD's secret weapon against crime. Former Special Forces in Nam, he's a cop on the edge. When he and his partner Geary uncover a potential human trafficking ring, it doesn't take long before John Bainbridge realizes this thing goes all the way to the top, which doesn't scare him. That just means they'll fall that much harder when he takes them down. Part send-up and part love letter to early 90s action films, Bainbridge will take you back to the golden days of Canon, PM Entertainment, and AIP. You can get it in paperback or on Kindle and Kindle Unlimited from Amazon. Follow the link in the podcast description. All right, we are back, and we're going to wrap up here with Predator Badlands, which I did see over the weekend. So I don't know if the movie theater near me stopped doing the 9:30 a.m. matinee on Saturdays, but the earliest I could get was 11:30 a.m., which, I've talked about this before. I don't like going that late to see a movie because it kind of just takes out my whole day. And the other thing, of course, Saturday here in Philadelphia, it was unseasonably warm. It was like 65 degrees, which I don't know what that is in Celsius, maybe like high teens. But it was a nice day. And so I kind of walked for the rest of my errands instead of getting the subway. So I took even longer, I guess, on them. But one of the things like Trader Joe's, like I try to get in there early because the younger people who are kind of out partying the night before, when you get them in there later in the day, they're kind of zombies just kind of walking around, and you definitely feel it. I mean, the Trader Joe's, I went to a different one because it was closer to the movie theater, but it was so packed. Like the line was out and around the corner, which I've never seen before. I was trying to get my tempeh and my soy rizo, and there was a young woman who was like just staring at stuff in that same refrigerator case, and I was like hoping she'd be done. Finally, I was like, I just need to get in here and get these. Let me just grab these out of here. So again, it's not the kind of thing you see when you're there a good 2-3 hours earlier, which is what it would have been. I would have been there about like 10:30 in the morning. So I guess if I'd gone to the 9:30 showing, I would have gotten there probably like 11:30 noonish, which still would have been a little bit rough, but not as bad as like 2 o'clock when I was there. So That's why I like those early morning. The other thing too is there were more people in the theater, and I was getting a little nervous because there were talkers. We had some guy who was in my row all the way down who had to tell his girlfriend or significant other, whoever was with him, everything that was happening in the movie in the early parts of it. Just a word of advice for people out there, especially if you're a guy. If you don't whisper and you think you're talking at a low volume, just know that the bass in your voice is going to still carry throughout the theater. So, if you're sitting there like, yeah, so this is what's happening there. Like, you think you're sounding quiet, but everybody can hear you. So just don't do that. The other thing is there were kids there because it was PG-13. And I don't know how PG-13 this movie was. I know that they did what I called the Star Trek 6 approach to get around the PG-13 or R. If you don't know the Star Trek 6 approach, I don't know if I discussed this on the DTVC Extra where I talked about 5 and 6. I may have. But essentially, the Star Trek 6, they made the Klingons' blood pink because they wanted to be able to show blood but keep it PG-13. So when they get murdered, when there's Klingons who get murdered early in the movie, and they wanted to show like how gravity was like, making the blood pool into like little balls and stuff, they made their blood pink. And that way they could get around the PG-13. Or it wasn't R. It wouldn't be R because it wasn't real red blood. And so in this movie they do the same thing, right? You've got Predator who has fluorescent green blood. And then you've got the androids, or synths or whatever we call them, who have like white blood or whatever. So they didn't have to worry about having anybody's blood in the movie, and they could make it as essentially as brutal as they wanted. And you just make sure everybody has fake blood and nobody says the word fuck too much, right? I guess I think you're allowed one fuck in a PG-13, something like that. But anyway, I wanted to do a quick synopsis here, and then we'll get into what I liked about this one. So Badlands, it starts with on the Predator's home planet, where this young Predator, Deck, he's going to fight his brother, and he actually kind of impresses his brother. The idea is he's supposed to defeat his brother so he can be a predator himself. Then their dad shows up, and the dad's like, why didn't you kill Deck? To the older brother. The other brother's name is Quay. Why didn't you kill Deck? Because Deck's a runt, and we need to cull the herd. We don't allow runts as a predator. You can't be a predator runt, right? It's not possible. So he wants his son to kill Deck, and instead his son releases Deck, lets him go, and the dad kills the son instead. So Deck now, he's going to make his big kill as a predator. So he's going to this planet called Jenna, where he's fighting this animal called the Kalisk, and nobody's ever killed the Kalisk before. So it would be a huge deal if he was able to kill the Kalisk and bring it home for his hunt. Now this planet Jenna is extremely violent, right? It's kind of very much like the Werner Herzog concept of nature, where he just loves the idea of violence. But it's like this violence that's in harmony, right? Like so as horrible as certain elements are, everything is adapted to live there amongst these horrible elements. So the Predator, of course, when he gets there, Deck, he learns very quickly that it's not a nice environment for him. But luckily, Elle Fanning is playing one of the synths who is she's been stranded there. She's been stuck in like a vulture's nest. We find out that she's missing the bottom half of her torso, but she is going to help the Predator, help Deck out in this sticky situation that he's in. And so then she essentially tells him like, hey, I know predators, you fight alone, but I can kind of be, I can help you in a sense. And he's like, oh, you could be like my tool. And she's like, yeah, tool, that sounds good. The other thing is she can talk to the Predator because she's got like a universal translator thing, because again, she's a synth. We also find out this is Weyland Yutani. So we're coming back to alien stuff here, which is really fun. And so Weyland Yutani, they're on this planet trying to learn about different things. And we also find out that Elle Fanning, her character Thea, has a sister named Tessa. I think I've got the names right, Thea and Tessa. It's a twin who they were fighting the Kalisk and they were defeated, and that's how she ended up with half a torso. And her sister ends up back at the main place where they're at. So the whole thing with Weyland Yutani is that they're using synths to study this planet because it's not it's not good for humans to be there. It's just too dangerous. So they want to catch the Kalisk, but then they find out, oh, she's with a predator as well. Maybe we can catch the predator too. We can do a little 2-for-1. And so that's what's happened. So they kind of go through their adventure where she's trying to, the predator's trying to find the Kalisk with half of Elle Fanning. Then they encounter this little creature who's kind of running around and stuff. They call the creature Bud. And so, anyways, what happens? is that they get to the Callisk, they fight the Callisk, and they discover that every time you try to kill the Callisk just regenerates whatever it is. He cut off the Callisk's tail, it just grows it right back. Cut off the Callisk's head, it just comes right back. Just reconnects with itself. But the thing is that Tessa, the other synths, they have found the Predator's ship. And they've grabbed all the Predator's stuff, including this thing that freezes stuff. Like it's like one of those little bomb things that the Predators have, but this one turns everything to ice. And so they freeze the Predator and they freeze the Callisk, and they take them on board the ship. And so we find out that Thea, Elle Fanning, the half Elle Fanning, her whole point of using the Predator was to get to the Callisk and kind of have them both captured so that Weyland-Yutani could use them for experiments. But then she discovers she kind of likes the Predator. She's one of the things about her character is that she was given feelings so that she could better understand the environment that they were living in. But now that she has feelings for the Predator. She wants him to be okay. So she tries to convince her sister Tessa to not kill the Predator. It doesn't work, so she helps them escape, and then they then go and take out rescue the Callisk, and then they go back to his home planet and they fight his father as well. So those are that's pretty much it. But we're left with this idea that there's sort of this ragtag team now of the Predator, Elle Fanning, she gets her legs back, her and Bud, the character they meet on the planet, who we find out is also one of the Callisks, and he just grows up to be a Callisk. So they're kind of this ragtag team that's going to be going out. I guess they defeat his father, and then his mother shows up, and that's how the movie ends. But there's a sense of they're going to be traveling the cosmos, getting into scrapes and beating people up and killing things and stuff like that, which could be fun. Who doesn't like a good space gang? It's obviously what Guardians of the Galaxy was able to figure out. Star Wars before that, right? They figured it out. You like a good space gang, kind of traveling the cosmos, getting into scrapes and taking people down. So if that's what we get, that could be fun. I guess they also decided that because no Predators were defeated, so nobody gets frozen here, right? I guess we're not going to freeze Elle Fanning or somebody like that, because I'm going to be snarky on that. I wasn't a fan of that. I don't think it's a good ways to go for this story here, but we'll get to more of that in a second. So some of the highlights of the movie for me, I love the fact that the planet was in harmony despite being so deadly. Like, for example, there's razor grass. There's grass that's so sharp that if you walk near it, it cuts you. But then the Bud character has this very hard back that when he rolls, he can essentially break the grass. The way that there were these nettles that would poison you and make you paralyzed, and how a bird would wait for prey to get in amongst these nettles, and then would throw a rock down that would force the nettles to spray their little needles. All that stuff was really, really cool, and the way that kind of that idea of evolution and the way that this planet has sort of evolved in a certain way, and then the idea too that a company like a Weyland-Yutani is going to come and fuck that whole thing up, just the way we fuck up these really great balanced ecosystems here in America as well, or in the world, right, throughout the world. As humans, we love fucking up a balanced ecosystem, and so why wouldn't Weyland-Yutani go fuck up this one as well, which is what's going to happen, right? That's kind of where it's going. But I love that whole idea. I also love the symmetry of you've got in Prey and in the first Predator, where they're kind of using their environment and using everything around them to defeat the Predator. And then in this, you've got the Predator himself going around and gathering things from the environment and using them to defeat the synths that are holding the Callisk hostage. I thought that was just really fantastic stuff as well. So a lot of this movie really worked for me. And I also love the fact that they brought in Weyland-Yutani in a way that was just kind of they're just here. They're just here doing this. They're just a part of this thing. I love that as well. That and I think Dan Trachtenberg talked about that he didn't want it to be a big we're throwing all these universes together. It was more hey, I think it was one of those things where it's okay, we know we want to make this PG-13, and we know one way to do it is to have androids, right? That's a good way to do it. Well, who would the androids be? Oh, well, Weyland-Yutani, right? Lance Henriksen, it would be, that would be your android. So the Weyland-Yutani company, of course, they make great androids. So yeah, those are the androids. That's how we're going to do this. Beautiful idea, perfect stuff, and again, great way to kind of build them in there. What's interesting now is this idea of like what happens with the Alien versus Predator movies, because we know Ridley Scott didn't want anything to do with them from the Alien movies, but I haven't seen the Alien movies up past Alien Cubed, which doesn't make any sense. Alien Cubed doesn't make any sense because if it's one alien cubed, that means it's just still one alien. But I've seen Aliens and Alien Cubed. I haven't seen any of the other Alien films, but I heard that some of the stuff that they used in this movie harken back to some of the other newer Alien stuff, which I think would be really cool as well. So, which again, that's not something that Ridley Scott is a fan of, right? He did not want those Alien versus Predator movies to be a part of his Alien canon, even though it's technically not his canon. He's just the director. Other people wrote them, other people designed the creatures, so it's not all his thing. But yeah, he didn't want that to be a part of it. I don't know. I kind of feel like Trachtenberg, kind of the same way that Shane Black in The Predator, was like, no, we're going to keep these movies as a part of it as well. They're going to be a part of this thing too. But I also like the way Trachtenberg did it in a way that wasn't like, this is an Alien versus Predator movie. It was more like, we're going to take some elements of Alien because we could use them here, and it's going to make things work better. I loved all that. I thought that was really fantastic. So, I think this one, it's worth it if I'm saying if you haven't seen it yet. Of course, if you haven't seen it yet, you're listening to me talk about it, and I've just given away the whole film. So maybe I should have led with the fact that you should definitely go see it in the theater first, and then chat with, then check this out, because it is a movie that's worth seeing in the theater. I think it's really good. I was trying to think what Predator movies I've seen in the theater. I think it's just the first Alien versus Predator, and then I think Predators, the one with Adrian Brody. I think I saw that one in the theater, but I haven't seen any others. So this is my first one I've seen in a while in the theater, and I think it's worth checking out in the theater. I don't know how long it's going to last. It only did $79 million over the weekend, I think is what I saw, on a $100 million budget. So, doing that kind of money, that $79 million probably on an opening weekend is good enough to keep you there for maybe a month. So you probably got a couple weeks to make it happen. But again, with each passing week, the amount of theaters and times that you can see it is going to shrink. So it's going to be harder to see it. But I definitely think this is worth seeing in the theater. If you're a Predator fan, this is worth checking out in the theater, so don't miss it in the theater. So maybe when I do my opening to this, because I'm recording this before I do the opening to this week's regular pod episode, I'll kind of mention that there, because I've completely spoiled this movie, right? I've spoiled the hell out of this thing. Though even if I'm spoiling the hell of it, I think it's still a lot of fun. You got to go check this one out. So it's definitely worth it. Now, where would I put it amongst the Predator movies? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe fourth. Maybe fifth. So you've got 1, 2, and Prey. Those are my top three. That's where that's going to be hard to break those three. Though, to be honest, neither of them feel as good. None of those three feel as good after seeing Killer of Killers, especially Prey. Prey does not feel as good anymore after seeing what happens to her in Killer of Killers. I hope. Trachtenberg, I hope you fix this. I hope you fix that. But anyway, after that, the first Alien versus Predator movie was a ton of fun. And when I watched it again, I really loved it again. I love Sanaa Lathan in that role. Lance Henriksen is a lot of fun. The Predators fighting the aliens. This one is close with that one. I think those two kind of are right near each other. Then I guess I don't know how you break down the rest of them, because I think The Predator is probably next. That would probably be, so that would be fifth, right? Or sixth. That would be kind of falling in there, sixth. And then Predators, maybe, I don't know, because the second Alien versus Predator, it was just hard to see that movie. It was hard to know what was going on with that one. So that's what can you do if you can't see the movie? Otherwise, it could have been a lot of fun. I love the idea of an alien predator, right? That was the best part of that one, but you couldn't see it. And then Killer Killers, that's down at the bottom, right? We unless Trachtenberg fixes that ending, but even without fixing the ending, just the idea of it was just kind of creepy to me. And again, I get it. Predators are savages. They don't care about people. They'll throw people on ice and not worry about and bring them out to fight. That's their thing. But I also think it betrays, there's a certain level of respect that they had as hunters. there was a certain level that they had, their level of honor, I would say, even that they had as hunters, that shows at the end of Predator 2. And Trachtenberg going on this course with the Predator series, it completely betrays all of that altogether. I mean, that scene at the end of the second Predator movie where, Danny Glover has finally taken out this Predator. He's finally killed him. And all of a sudden he sees more Predators. And he's like, oh, damn it. What am I going to do? This is, he's like, fine, just kill me. That's it, right? I can't do anything. And they hand him the gun instead, which that gun does make an appearance in Killer of Killers. They give that gun to the young man from World War II. And of course, he's like, I don't even know how to use this thing, right? I wasn't trained on how to use a gun like this. But it just completely betrays the ending of part 2, betrays the entirety of part 3. But also, it's like, why do I want to watch any more Predator things if I know that when you defeat a Predator, you get put on ice after the fact? Like, it defeats the whole thing. I don't know. It's going to be hard. Like, obviously, a movie like Badlands is going to be a little different because you're not killing a Predator in that sense. But I mean, like, we don't know what happens with Adrian Brody's character at the end of Predators. But is what happens that he just gets put on ice as well? I don't know. I don't know. It just not a good way. I'm going back to the bad here again. I liked Badlands. Badlands was a really good one. Like I said, it's probably. It's in a close, I don't know where I'd put it, whether it's 4 or 5 amongst these Predator movies, but it's right up there. I really enjoyed it, and so I shouldn't be letting Killer of Killers taint that. But man, I don't know what they're going to do with this thing going forward. I don't know. The other thing, of course, is Hulu has all of them. So, I was talking with my brother-in-law Neil, when I was up visiting my family this past weekend. Not this week, the weekend before. And he was talking about watching The Running Man, and I was saying what a great triple feature it would be, where you've got like Running Man, Commando, and Predator, right? Like, that's a good triple feature. And I think if you're watching Commando, watch it. Or sorry, if you're watching Predator, don't think about what happens at the end of Killer of Killers, right? Just think that Dutch survives, right? He's got his hands on his hips, smoking his cigar after the whole place explodes, and just know that, just think that, no, he just survives, or like Naru, right? I just want to believe that she just lives her life with the Cheyenne and just kind of goes about her business and doesn't get frozen or whatever. I don't know. I mean, granted, in her case, maybe, she's going up against colonial forces. Maybe it's not as much fun to be living in the United States at that time. Though I think she predated the Revolutionary War by a good amount, I think. So she would have also predated the Louisiana Purchase. So she would have been under French rule, which would have been better for her than dealing with the Americans. When us Americans swept west, right? We were horrible. So yeah, not good there. But anyway. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say here. I was trying to think of other good points in Badlands that I love, but I just think the concept of it was really great. I mean, again, somebody was saying it's the first time the Predator was the protagonist. I don't know. Again, I don't know if I agree with that, because I thought the first Alien versus Predator, he was a protagonist with Sanaa Lathan. All right, and remember when he even uses the alien acid blood to mark her with the same mark that they give the Predators, and she was like, yeah, give me the mark. He was a good guy in that, wasn't he? Right, Predator. He was a good guy in that one. So but again, that's maybe them saying oh, the Alien versus Predator movies don't count. Bullshit. Alien versus Predator movies count. They're part of the whole thing. Everything counts as far as I'm concerned. I'm a big fan of that. I remember when I used to teach English as a second language. I remember talking to one of my students who's in Brazil, and I was saying how because my wife's Jewish and I'm Catholic, we celebrate all of the holidays. And he's like, yes, I believe you should celebrate as many holidays as possible. And I think you should include as many movies in a storyline as possible. But I don't know. I mean, Killer of Killers, you know what that means? We might, if it's as bad as I think it's going to be, we might have to have a Highlander 3, right? Which, if you remember, Highlander 3 was the do-over movie. You had the first Highlander, and then when they made The Quickening, they were like, well, we don't like The Quickening, so they did part 3 as a do-over for The Quickening. And then the series was an alternate version of everything that was kind of the same as well, but it was everything that happens in part 1 in the first movie happens up until the fact that the Kurgan is the last one, right? And so he's not the last immortal, and then the rest of the series is just from there. This could be what's going to be happening with Predator. Is it's going to be like Highlander, where you've just got all these sort of branches and all these different versions of the storyline. Maybe Trachtenberg set it up like that, or maybe the Alien versus Predator thing thing happening in the middle has already started us on that path, and we have to go that way. I mean, again, I want to see RoboCop versus a Predator. Give me that movie. Great, plunk a Predator down in, futuristic, nasty Detroit. Just throw a Predator right in there and have Murphy have a go at him. And I understand, Peter Weller's a bit older at this point. He probably can't play RoboCop, but he could voice RoboCop, right? I mean, that would be beautiful. I think we could sync the voices. We could make that work. Give me Peter Weller's voice with RoboCop, with somebody who's like got a chin that's like, Weller-esque, and have him fight a Predator, and don't put him on ice after, right? Nobody's putting RoboCop on ice. We're just gonna have to defeat it. I mean, Batman versus Predator. Does that mean Batman versus Predator, that Batman defeats Predator, he gets put on ice? Like, no, get out of here with all of that. I think I've gone on for too long ranting about this, but I'm hoping that they change this, because I can't handle that. So, anyway, why don't we wrap this up? I'm going to say, big up, Badlands. Go check it out. Worth checking out. Hopefully everybody agrees with me on that one. I really enjoyed that one. Killer of Killers. Mediocre for me, at least, but then that ending stuff just really, really gave me a bad taste in my mouth. So I wasn't a fan of that one. But yeah, so hey, why don't we wrap up? Because it's just me here. It's DTVC Extra. I'm going to be doing my own plugs. You can find the site dtvconnoisseur.blogspot.com. That's where you can find links to everything. We got the podcast, of course. You should be subscribed. That's how you're listening to us here. So you should be checking us out on all major podcatchers or whatever podcatcher you like to use. The YouTube channel. We're going to be getting a video up soon. We're looking at the opening action sequence in Hard to Die. So hopefully we'll have that up soon. But if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, if you don't have an account on YouTube and you're not subscribed, you may have missed our most recent video, which was the bathhouse scene in Showdown in Little Tokyo. There was some nudity in that scene, so I had to gate it at 18 plus, and so you can't see an 18 plus one unless you have an account, because then it allows you to sign. You have to sign in to be able to watch that. So it's also probably not popping up on your algorithm, so you may be missing it. So, keep that in mind. But yeah, the YouTube channel. You can also catch all of our podcast episodes on the YouTube channel as well. So I definitely check that out. And then my books. I mean, most recent one, the one you heard the ad for earlier on here, Nadia and Aiden, that one's still there. Pick that one up, about two twins, fraternal twins from France who come to America to learn about their heritage in 2008. I think some of this stuff is relevant today. I think a good amount of it is relevant today, which is interesting that it's taking place in 2008, but yet the themes about America, sort of culturally, some of the things that we do or are doing, it's still relevant there. So definitely check that one out, Nadia and Aiden. And then my newest one, Mark in Sales. That one is going to be out soon. So I have I've submitted it to KDP, to Amazon. I'm now waiting for the proof copy. Probably when this episode comes out, the proof copy will have made it to me, and I'll check it out to see if everything's aligned and everything looks okay. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Should be in the next couple of weeks. We should have my newest novel, Mark in Sale. So I always appreciate if people want to pick that one up as well. All right, well, thank you everybody for listening, and we'll be back soon. Bye, everyone.